Our good friend Holden Krusemark on the program today from Oklahoma City. We got a chance to talk to Brian a little bit earlier this week. It's been a really busy time for you guys. Obviously, you got the banner dropped a couple of weeks ago. The Oklahoma City Thunder off to a really nice start. How's it been over there in OKC?
Yeah, the Thunder are off to a really nice start this season, which takes away, I think, from a lot of the pain some of the fans are feeling from the football teams right now.
Yeah.
So it's a nice fallback here in Oklahoma now that the Thunder are rolling and consistently good.
Absolutely. Oklahoma's football team, the Sooners, they were probably on top of the world about 5 weeks ago, and then John Mateer messes up his hand in the Auburn game, a game they win, a game he has a huge part in. And I feel like ever since then, it's just been like a slippery slope downhill for this football team. The good news is he came back 17 days after surgery. The bad news is that he hasn't looked all that great. Now that there is 2 losses on the board, what do you make of where Oklahoma is right now and where Mateer is right now as they look forward to yet another huge game in the SEC?
Yeah. Well, I would add that the bad news was that he came back so soon.
That's
Yeah.
right. They could
Because
be hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
that to me just didn't make any sense at all at the time. It felt like you were rushing him back, and he just hasn't looked right ever since. I mean, he had the horrible game against Texas with the 3 interceptions and the offense not scoring a single touchdown. And then his performance got a little masked against South Carolina. He didn't have to do too much because the South Carolina offense didn't really put much pressure on OU to keep scoring points, and they got a good attack from the running game. So it kind of overshadowed some of the still inconsistencies within him, and it just showed up again against Ole Miss. And he keeps saying that it's not the thumb, his thumb is fine. And if that's the case, then okay, so now you just magically can't make decisions in your mind, and you seem a little bit slower out there. The quarterback run game isn't working.
Right.
I think he should be saying that it's the thumb. That's what he should be saying.
Yes.
Because now you've opened yourself up to all these other questions. Okay, well, if it's not the thumb, so you just have now lost everything that you had early in the season.
Right.
And it's not like Ole Miss is exactly, peak Alabama defense or anything,
Yes,
or even this
exactly.
OU
Right.
defense.
Right.
That's a defense that you should be able to do good things against. And really, outside of Xavier Robinson in the second half, they did not do much offensively.
Yeah, the defense has been the calling card for this football team. I harken all the way back to the Michigan game where they made Bryce Underwood's life hell, and they made Jackson Arnold's life hell when they played the Auburn Tigers. 9 sacks, 10 sacks, however you want to record it there in that one. But it felt like against Lane Kiffin, the defense was actually the part where they could not get over. You see the numbers in that game on Saturday, more than 400 total yards, a little bit of smack talk as well between Lane Kiffin and one of the defenders for the Oklahoma Sooners. What was the setback there for this defense, or do you think it was a one-off, or do you think that this is a sign of more things to come with a really good Tennessee team on deck?
Yeah, I think this is just what we haven't seen all season and it's the area that I've thought that they were the most vulnerable on defense is in the secondary. They didn't bring in anybody from the portal. They're relying on a lot of their young guys to step up and, make, improvements and stuff like that. And, you can see on the defensive line and, the linebackers, you've got experience, you've got talent. And that's not to say that there's no talent in the secondary, but that's been the weak point of this Sooner defense so far, and they just haven't faced a quarterback that's been able to expose them this year.
Right.
Like you mentioned, Bryce Underwood, true freshman, Jackson Arnold at Auburn, not exactly polished quarterbacks like Trinidad Chambliss and who they're going to face this week at Tennessee. It's if you can dice them up or if you can pass the ball, you can get the ball moving through the air. That's where you can hurt this team, and especially if you can get the ball out quick. I think Ole Miss did some extra protections and stuff like that to try and slow down the pass rush and give Chambliss a little bit of extra time. And their 2 losses have come against Texas and Ole Miss, and Arch so far this year.
Right.
He's not exactly dicing anybody up through the air. So they hadn't really been challenged in a way that Trinidad Chambliss challenged them through the air. And really one of the things that kept OU in it for a while was the fact that Lane Kiffin kept throwing Austin Simmons in the game
Right.
and
Right.
trying to make things happen, because that just completely ruined several of their drives.
Hmm.
And so without that, who knows exactly how bad that game could have gotten if they punch it in there and everything like that. So yeah, I think you can attack this OU defense through the air, and if they're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, then they're gonna potentially have a tough time, especially right now with Gentry Williams. He's their best cornerback, and he's always banged up. So
Hmm.
if he is able to be healthy, their secondary, it looks a little bit better. If he's not, then that's where they're struggling, because right now their best cornerback is a true freshman, Cortland Guillory, and Eli Bowen is their second best cornerback. He's a true sophomore. So there's some inexperience there, and I think it showed in that Ole Miss game, and it's something that Tennessee can exploit as well.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to the flip side of that, the good news, I would think, for the Oklahoma offense is this might be the worst defense in the SEC that they'll face. Tennessee has not been very good defensively. How much do you think that might be able to help Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, and this offense be able to get back on track here in this football game?
Yeah, I definitely think that'll be a huge key to maybe getting Mateer. I don't want to say he's lacking confidence, because he always seems to be a pretty confident
Sure,
guy, but
absolutely.
when you're playing the way you are, surely that has to knock you down a little bit in your confidence. So maybe a game like this could help him get right, and they can, start and it gives them some momentum into these final three games that they have after Tennessee, which is still a bit of a gauntlet at Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, even though they don't have Brian Kelly anymore. So this is an important game for the OU offense, because they need to show some more signs of life. And, even when they were cooking early in the season, it wasn't exactly like they were actually cooking. They
Right,
they just did, they did pretty well,
right.
and they let the defense kind of guide them through it. Now they're just not even playing complementary football with the defense. And I think that was part of the issue against Ole Miss. Is I think Ole Miss ran double the amount of plays that
Hmm.
OU did. So, any defense is eventually going to wear down if you're on the field that much and your offense just isn't really helping you out, giving you some long drives and everything like that.
No question. We got a chance to hear from Brent Venables on helping his QB1.
Talk open and honest with them, and try to help them manage the burden of expectations and the burden of responsibility. Certainly, everything goes through the quarterback. I've said this a lot. You playing good people, you can't have a quarterback that plays poorly and expect to win, but you don't have to play perfect and win either. You just have to be able to manage the game well, and for the most part, he's done a really good job of that. We're 6-2. The success that we've had have been because he's done a great job at playing well at all the right times, and then again collectively around him, we gotta play better as well to help him. But you always, I've talked to him from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. When we cross paths, both here in the building and out on the practice field, and what the defense is doing, where the weak spots are, things of that nature. But my biggest role is in trying to support him and help him, manage the responsibility from a leadership standpoint.
So it sounds like he's saying all the right things about helping his quarterback at this point of the season. Spinning this thing forward with Oklahoma, they have one of the most interesting scheduling situations, because yes, it is a tough schedule, but if they get through it, they are no doubt in the college football playoff and probably have the best resume of all the 12 teams that will be in. They might not get the one seed just because of 2 losses, obviously, but as far as just pure resume of who they've beat. But going into this week, and then you're off next week, and then you have Alabama, how do you think that they're handling this, knowing that the margin of error is paper thin given the fact they have 2 losses heading into this final stretch?
Yeah, it's a super intriguing matchup, because both OU and Tennessee, they're sitting on that 2-loss line. Another loss really would push them onto the bubble of the playoff and everything like that. So, and especially for OU, just the fact that you have the Alabama game left on your schedule, this almost just feels like a must win if you're going to make the playoff. And it's not to say if they lose this game to Alabama, this is a bad season. Remember, this team won 6 games a year ago.
Yep.
So winning 8 games would be a nice step in the right direction in the first year, where again Ben Arbuckle is 29, 30. He might be 30 years old now, tasked with leading the offense and everything. They're really kind of, switching things up on that side of the ball. So I think an 8-win season would be good, but obviously the expectations change with the start to the season. And so I think you have to win this game if you're going to challenge for the playoff, because it's going to be pretty difficult to win at Alabama even after the bye week and everything. So this feels like a must win. And what I would really like to see the Sooners do is try to rely more on the run game and Xavier Robinson. I mean, this is a guy that showed, super potential last year down the stretch as a true freshman, and then was not involved at all early in the season. It felt like, and to the point where I was wondering if maybe they were just going to redshirt him,
right?
Because he was not involved at all, and that was surprising too, given the fact that Jaden Ott had not been involved at all. So you're like, well, what are we exactly doing here?
Right.
And Xavier Robinson finally gets involved after the Sooners are sputtering all first half against Ole Miss, and he rips off 2 touchdowns, the big 65-yarder that really kind of brought some life back into the game and the team and everything. I would like to see him get more involved. I'd like to see maybe a 60-40, 70-30 split with him and Blaylock, and just try and really establish the run game against this team. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off Mateer, just knowing that he doesn't have to be Superman, which is kind of what he was tasked with early in the season. They were essentially only winning those games because of him offensively. And now they're losing games because of him. So it's, if you can get the run game going, that just means the offensive line's a little banged up right now, kind of shuffled a couple pieces around. They had a true freshman starting at right tackle against Ole Miss, and he came in to play guard. So that was kind of a little bit of an interesting situation. You have 2 freshmen as your left tackle and your right tackle. So if they're able to run the ball, that means the O-line's looking good, and that takes some pressure off Mateer, and maybe you can get the receivers free a little bit more, and just really get this offense going, because they need to get going if they want to have any chance at making the playoff.